So gross.
Okay. So hi everyone, my name is Chantel. We'll do introductions in a bit, but we're the three of us, me, Sydney, and Sasha are all in-state students that go to Santa Clara. And we'll just answer any questions that you have. Feel free to type it in the chat and I'll direct them to one of the three of us. And yeah, so we'll start with introductions. My name is Chantel. I'm a senior at Santa Clara University studying accounting and information systems. I'm from San Jose, California, so that's about 20 minutes away. I went to Valley Christian High School, if anyone knows where that is. On campus, I'm involved with a couple of things, Internship, which is our South Asian Student Association. I'm involved with Women in Business, and I was a residential advisor, which we call community facilitators on campus when I was a sophomore. And Sydney or Sasha, you can go.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sydney. I'm from LA, currently in LA right now. I'm a communication and political science double major. I'm also a junior. I had an on-campus job with Kids on Campus, so hopefully I can resume that once I go back. And I'm also involved in EGWE, which is our school's SU.
Hi everybody, my name is Sasha. Similar to Chantel, I'm also a senior studying accounting and information systems, so right there with you. I'm from Pleasanton, California, so for anyone who's not familiar, that's the East Bay. Some things I do on campus, obviously besides this job, is I'm also a student assistant at the Drummond Center. So for us, that's student advising, free academic tutoring if you need, all of that stuff. You'll be very familiar with if you end up going here. Some other things that I've done with my time that haven't been mentioned is I studied abroad last fall, and so did Chantel. So if you have any questions about that, ask us. Feel free. I went to Australia, Chantel went to London, so we went to 2 different spots. That's pretty cool. And I also had an internship this past summer. So if you have any questions about what that's like, Chantel also had the same internship as me, so we can answer any questions. And then in terms of how do you find a job? It's kind of like your end goal with college here. Most people would agree. So yeah, feel free to ask anything and everything.
Yeah, feel free to send in any questions. Maybe we can start off with what it's like to be, just kidding, we have one. Why did you pick SCU? Sydney, do you want to go?
Sure. Also, I have construction going on across from me, so I apologize in advance if you can hear that. But I love this question. It's my favorite one to get. I picked SCU, honestly, it sounds cliche, but because of the community. I remember when I was touring, the tour guide I had was walking through the campus, showing us around, and I kid you not, said hi to almost every single person that walked by name, like smiled, warm, everything. And so that was something I hadn't seen at any other school. Nobody else was as welcoming. The community did not seem as strong as Santa Clara. And so I just absolutely loved the environment. I felt like I could really fit in. It was small enough where I could kind of make my own way. So that's why I chose it.
Awesome. Sasha, what are your favorite memories at SCU?
I was muted. Oh, this is really hard. I would say, if we're talking physically at Santa Clara, I would probably say I don't think a specific moment, but I really cherished living on campus. I did it freshman year and sophomore year. I personally like sophomore year better just because it's a little less scary because you're not as new. And we were all sophomores on the floor, and we lived in the building called Swig, if you're familiar with that. And it was just the community. I think being on campus, it's kind of like a way to find a home away from home. So it's not a particular event, but I think on campus, at Santa Clara, living in Swig for 2 years is probably one of my favorite things.
And then the next question is, what is your favorite thing to do around campus? I think all three of us can answer just because there's so many different things you can do. Personally, for me, I love around 10 minutes, a 10-minute walk away from campus is Caltrain. So my freshman year, we would always walk to Caltrain and go to San Francisco. I'm kind of a city girl, so I like to just adventure around San Francisco and do things around there. Sydney, what's your favorite?
So if you guys have visited Santa Clara, I'm sure you've seen that there's really, really beautiful rose gardens on campus. And so my favorite thing to do by far is to sit there with my friends, chat. One time for my friend's birthday, we all had a picnic out there. We had little canvases that we painted. We drank lemonade. It was the best, honestly. And so I think just the beauty of the campus is my favorite aspect.
For me, I'd probably say the beach. I think being like less than an hour away and it's just a drive, that's one of my favorite things. Also, because if you're familiar from Northern California, like we're in the Bay Area and you do like a 40-minute drive, but you go through the forest and then you end up at the beach. So I think it's really the drive's super fun. And I think it's cool just to kind of get away. Obviously, the Rose Garden and like going to the city are definitely top favorites as well. But just to diversify the answers, if you love the beach or love hiking and stuff, having that super accessible is so nice.
Is there anything you wish you had known before starting at SCU? Sydney.
That is a great question. Yes, I guess I wish I'd known that as a freshman or a first year, everyone's very excited to make friends. And I think I was overly nervous and overestimated kind of the social dynamics, but in reality, be as nice as they ever will be again in your life. And so I wish I had been
So
more
true.
relaxed and maybe taken more advantage, because it's the only time you can literally just walk up to someone and start a conversation and no one's going to think it's weird. So yeah, I guess I wish I had known how true it is that everyone is so willing to make friends.
I 100% agree to that. Next question. How is the change moving to the university? I don't live in the States, but I just want to hear different perspectives. So all three of us can answer. Sasha, do you want to start?
Yes. Is this time just like I would say, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say it's like the best thing in the world, to be honest. Like a little countdown, and it just kind of felt like the days would pass so fast, like coming to college. I would describe like everyone is super outgoing. You meet a ton of people. School does a great job with. So obviously you have all of that. You're meeting people. You live on campus. You're away from home. You're like in college. And then it just kind of hits you. I think like the best way I can put it is like the honeymoon phase of going to college kind of dies out, which a lot of people might not anticipate, especially being from California, or I'm like less than an hour away. And I would kind of just describe it as like, for me, the hardest part was, if I have a bad day in school, like in high school, okay, I leave the parking lot at 3 p.m. and I can try again tomorrow at 8. For me at Santa Clara was hard because a bad day can follow you around till like 10 p.m. because school is home and home is school because you live on campus. So it's really hard to like get out of a funk if you get into it. I don't have my parents. I now have to go those bad days and it would be at home. And so that's what kind of made the transition a little bit difficult. But I think taking a step back to realize, okay, like college is super fun, but it's also like you are working harder, you are doing a lot of different things. And so for me, it was making time to go to the gym to kind of like work that stress out, or finding ways that like I might not be able to change course load, but I can change ways that I deal with that. And so that's kind of how I dealt with the transition. But I think you'd be pretty naive to think that it's all like unicorns and butterflies going to like college.
That's very well said. Yeah.
I think the hardest part about transitioning to university was the quarter system. I think most people in having 3 quarters, 10 weeks, each quarter. Oh my gosh, it was very difficult to adjust to how fast paced it is. But honestly, I'll tell you this, once you get used to it, it becomes like second nature. And I prefer the quarter system now to semester. I think the fast pace keeps you on your toes. It keeps you engaged. You can transition through classes more easily, so you get a more wide variety of classes throughout your time. And you just learn how to manage a lot better, which I think will serve you well going into life, having to work and do a bunch of other things. So, but yeah, that by far was the hardest transition.
Yeah. My answers are pretty similar to Sasha and Sydney, so I don't want to take up more time. Iris asked, is commuting common? Yeah, I'd say I think majority, about 96% of freshmen, um, it is, we still have commuter students, and there is a residential hall called Graham that almost quote unquote hosts commuter students. Chill out during class, in between classes, or you want to hang out with people in a common area, you would go to Graham and book a room or something. But even that, once you get involved with clubs and stuff, I feel like I almost didn't know that one of my friends was a commuter. Like my freshman year, I didn't know anything, but um, when I found out she was a commuter, I was like, wow, you're always on campus. So I think you just have to make the extra effort to be involved. Michelle asked, do you have advice for getting used to the college life? Sasha, do you want to take that?
Sure. This one's also a little bit more broad just because there's so many different aspects about college life. I would just kind of say that, like, obviously there's going to be days where you feel great, you're on top of the moon, life's awesome. And there's going to be days where you feel like crap, to be frank. And so I think that
Mm-hmm.
it's cool. I think tapping into your resources is super important. You have access, obviously you go to class, you could potentially have like student assistants. You could also you have your professor, obviously. You can also go into drama and tutoring. You can also ask like previous people who have taken the class. You can go, and so I just think that there are ample opportunities for you to like kind of navigate through a tough class. The culture here is very collaborative in the sense that like you can take a class and you take it individually, but chances are pretty high you'll be working with other people, either to study together, take notes together, that type of stuff. And so I think in terms of academics, I would say reach out. I think if you're not using the resources, you're definitely going to struggle. I definitely cannot imagine not using tutoring for math, writing. We have like a writing hub if you struggle with writing, which is me. So, and all of these are when you come here, it's already included in your tuition. So you're not going to have to pay out of pocket, which is huge. And then in terms of social life, I would just say, like, really put yourself out there. I think it's better to like put yourself out there more than what you're used to, because you can always pull back, rather than like, junior year, you're going to turn around and be like, I can't really go to those first year events and swig. So I would just kind of like take it slow and consciously, but also like really put in the effort.
Cool. Can any of us speak on transfer experiences? So none of us are transfers, but do either of you have a special friend that was a transfer and would like to talk about it?
I know someone who's transferred, and they've said that the transfer process isn't too rigorous and that they didn't feel any like distance when they came to Santa Clara. The people were welcoming. I don't think that you even really know who's a transfer, who's not, just because it's a big campus, you don't know everyone. So I don't think that transfers feel singled out or excluded in any way.
I honestly, from what I've heard, like there are transfer people here. So I think us being quiet about that is not that like it's a population that's unheard of. I think it's just so like a lot of people are met with a smooth transition, in the sense that like as a student who goes here, a transfer student like doesn't stand out as a transfer student to us because it's just so like smooth. I think the hardest thing that I've heard about transfers is just getting all of your credits and stuff to align. But like counselors will work with you and stuff like that. And then housing. I think like obviously as a transfer, you can choose to opt into on-campus housing. So if you can't find anything off, that's also an option for you.
Yeah. Actually,
Hi everyone.
now that we're
Quick thing, Chantel. My name is Michaela. I'm an assistant director of admission at Santa Clara, and I actually transferred to Santa Clara myself. So I was a transfer student when I was a student at Santa Clara. So I have a little bit of that experience, but I'm also available to help answer questions about the process. I agree that students, there's confusion about how to transfer, how those credits come across, and then how to make that blend seamlessly in with Santa Clara. It's very doable. My top advice to you as a transfer student is that you really do have to work to get involved and to make your community. People want you to be a part of community, though. You will make friends. All of these wonderful students here love everybody at Santa Clara. It doesn't matter that you're a transfer student, but you have to put yourself out there. So one of the ways you can do that is by living on campus. But if that's not an option to you, just join clubs, join sports, get involved, be at events, be present. And you will find that at Santa Clara.
yeah. Actually, one of our transfer student. She transferred her winter quarter sophomore year, and within 3 weeks she was in a sorority, a business fraternity, and she applied to be a student ambassador and got it.
She killed it.
Yeah, she killed it. Next question. What is your favorite SU tradition? I can take this one. I think for me, it's kind of like around welcome weekend where you kind of go to the first soccer game and everyone's on campus out and about. That's not a tradition, but I guess welcome weekend is like kind of my favorite week of the year. Sad that we didn't get that this year, but it's okay. I'd say one more is around week 10. The programming board organizes a huge, they call it midnight breakfast. This at midnight for students who are studying and everything. But it's like, it takes off the stress during week 10. Next question. Is there any outdoor programs at SCU? Sasha, would you like to take this one?
Yes, I would
outdoor
love
girl.
to. Okay, so the short answer, yes. So the biggest one is called Into the Wild. That is a club here where it's a little bit different than the other clubs just because you don't have to walk through a club fair and put your email down and be a part of it. There's no like vetting process at all. It's a club that just by being a student at Santa Clara, you get the emails every week. So normally in a non-COVID experience, usually what happens is they send out on Sunday a newsletter of like what trips they're gonna do and also kind of like the anticipated level of experience you should probably have. So that'll range from no experience at all to like an advanced backpacker, for example. And then some are open. I'll say the application's open at this time. So like freshman or sophomore year, we've gone on some and like my roommate and my friends and I would sit and we put our little seconds clock on just like to click the moment we get on these trips because they're so cool. And they're subsidized too, is the advantage to going with them. So not only is it cheaper than what you would if you were to do it yourself, but you also can use like their camping gear and stuff. So you don't have to go out of your way to buy stuff if you don't have any. And then they also will usually table outside Benson, which is kind of like a central place where a lot of students are. And you can like talk to them. It's Into the Wild leaders. And if you want to sign up for them, you can. So that's like the easiest way to get outside if you're not familiar with the area or just not as experienced, or if you are as experienced, but you want to go with people. I love the trips. I think we've even done like just a Saturday hike or we've gone on like a weekend trip. So there's that. That's like very common, very easy. And then there's also the culture here in terms of going outdoors is huge. So if you're interested in that, like you can hop on like Facebook groups, group meets, or just meet people and also do things outside of Into the Wild too. So it's super easy to get involved with that type of stuff.
Yeah. Next question. Are there a cappella groups to get involved with? Sydney, do you want to take it?
Yeah, there's a bunch of a cappella groups. I'm not super familiar with them because I don't personally sing, but I think there's like 5 or so. I think there's like some all girls ones, some all guys ones, some mixed gender.
Mm-hmm.
They perform a
They're so
lot
good.
at. Sorry?
Yeah, they're amazing.
They're super good. You can probably go on YouTube and see some of their performances at Love Jones.
Most unique / favorite part of SCU, something you did. Most unique favorite part about SCU. Honestly, I'd say for me, I love the smaller class size / smaller school size. When I was applying colleges, I didn't even consider the school size. I was just like, I need to apply to colleges. I don't care what the size is. But I think the size has impacted me where not that you know everyone, but you almost feel very like it's a very friendly campus. So I remember as a freshman, like walking to class, I'd wave to like 5 people. Everyone does that. So it's like, it's such a like very like wholesome vibe on campus when you're just walking around saying hi to everyone. So that's what I love. Do you guys want to add anything?
I mean, if I had to pick one word, I would say the people, the culture, which you've talked about beautifully. So that's it for me.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I think wholesome is a really good word.
Yeah. How are the food options and prices around SCU? Sasha, do you want to take it?
Sure. Is this like on campus, Benson, or just like if you're to eat off campus sort of thing?
This
guess
is
I could do
around
both.
SCU. Yeah, you can
Okay,
do
so
both.
off campus. Off campus, I would say it's pretty decent. I wouldn't say it's like something that like is distinctly expensive that we stay away from, or if it's distinctly cheap where we like bank on it. There are a lot of options. At my housing complex, which is right next to school, there's like a Vietnamese sandwich place, there's Safeway, there's Round Tables, there's like a wings place, there's a poke bar, there's Mexican. So you do have options that are walkable if you don't have a car. On the other side of campus, there's a Thai place. There is Santana Row, which is like a 5-minute drive, which I would say then you start to kind of enter more pricier options. But it is fun. It's a very popular place on Parents' Weekend. And then you can save some of that college budget monies. But even when I lived off campus, every so often we would take a little trip and go off campus, and it wasn't like this massive thing that left us broke or anything. Obviously, probably not sustainable to do all the time, but I would say it's relative. And that being said, I mean, I say relative just because I mean, I'm assuming people are from California in this Zoom call, so it's nothing. I think it's what you'd expect for California.
Yeah. Is the campus open to just walk around and look at right now? Yes, it is. You just have to wear a mask on campus. Yeah. Building on Samida's question, can you talk about the opportunities to connect with other students with similar interests through clubs and other activities? Sydney, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to connect with students. I'd say the best one, aside from clubs, is your residential learning community or the residence hall you're going to live in. We have a program where your English class, your first 2 quarters, is with people exclusively from your residence hall. And so you take class with them, you get to know them better, you can hang out and spend time doing projects together in your residence hall. Likewise, we do have club fairs at the beginning of the year where all the clubs are out. They have food, music, dancing, everything. And you can just rapid fire sign up for whatever you want, get the emails, go to the clubs. It's super fun and a really, really great way to get involved, especially your first quarter, your first year. I would say sign up for as much as you want. That's what I did. Decide what you want to keep or not, but a really great way to get involved.
Mm-hmm. Do you get to pick a roommate or is it random? Sasha, do you want to take that one?
Sure. It's either or. So basically with the housing, there's a new housing system where you have up until May 1st. So like when the housing application is, you have to basically submit if you want to go random or if you want to go with a specific roommate. If you're going to go with a specific roommate, obviously, I mean, this sounds like common sense, but they do get some applications that are not this way. It has to be mutual. So if you like a person, if they don't put you down, you guys are not going to be together. A lot of people meet roommates either from like similar hometowns, high schools, and a lot of people, at least our year, I mean, granted, this was like 4 years ago, so I don't really know what it is now, but I assume it's the same where you are in Facebook groups. So when we were coming into college, it kind of looked like you'd kind of post some pictures about yourself, what you like to do, that sort of thing. Take it as you may. Personally, it weirded me out. I did not like that process at all, so I went random. I also had a sister who went here, and so yeah, I did not like it at all, and so I went random.
She's like best friends with her roommate too.
Yeah, me and roommate are still roommates to this day. So it worked out great. And the reason I decided to go random was also because I knew the system because my sister went here and she did random, and so I had seen the housing app previously, and I knew that it was very detailed. And instead of asking questions like what your favorite TV shows are, like what's on the Facebook a lot, it was more so like, do you like it clean? Are you dirty? What time do you like to go to bed? Are you a morning worker? Are you an evening worker? And my favorite part was they have you rank 1 to 10 how much you like different genres of music, which is huge because if you like music, if you're gonna hate, if you love rock and you hate country, imagine your roommate being a country music person, you know, you'd hate life. So they do a great job with that. So I think don't put a lot of pressure on yourself of coming into college with a roommate. I think also the mentality of your roommate should be your roommate first and friends second. If you have both, great, but your first priority should be being able to live with them. And Santa Clara's housing office prioritizes that. So I think if you can't find somebody to live with, you're in good hands. And if, for example, if you end up not liking your housing situation, you can talk to them and see if you can possibly switch things around. So you have options.
Yeah. How much time do you usually spend on homework? I think this usually varies major to major, classes to classes. For Sasha and I, we're AIS majors. I think it depends if we have.
Yeah, it also depends like if you have midterms, if you have lab, lecture. It's very subjective.
I'd say at least like 3 to 4 hours a day. Is that too much? It varies.
It depends. It's so hard to
Yeah,
like,
it
and especially now
depends.
with being on Zoom, it's kind of like, I don't know, sometimes my homework becomes watching the rest of the lecture I didn't watch, you know, like, but normally that wouldn't
So it
happen.
could pile up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sydney,
it
do
just
you have
depends.
anything? Yeah.
It
Yeah,
depends
it
on
really
the
depends.
time of the quarter and what classes you're taking. But I'd say for me
Mhm.
personally, as a communication political science major, it doesn't exceed more than a few hours a day.
Yeah.
I also think like the important thing here is not the specific hours. I think what's important is that regardless of people's major, a common theme is that everyone always has time for other things. So much so that if you're not doing other things, it's kind of like, what are you doing, you know? And it's like, so a lot of people are super involved. Like obviously you have school year and that also accounts for time in the library, but a lot of us have on-campus jobs. A lot of us are in clubs. A lot of us lead parts of clubs, either on sports teams or working off campus. So I like, honestly, I don't know that I know somebody who goes here and only does school.
That's
Which
true.
personally I love. I think it's great because you kind of can find purpose beyond going to class.
Yeah. I was talking about this with my housemate today. We were like, what is like a typical Santa Clara week? And I'd say like, Monday through Friday, you do homework, you go to clubs, this and that. And I'd say Saturdays are usually like you enjoy yourselves, like that's your rest day. And then Sunday, everyone's in the library, like grinding from morning
Yes.
till evening. So
That's also
I'd
like
say good work-life balance.
yes. And like people have also asked like what's the hardest part about going to Zoom, like Zoom University, all that stuff. I honestly, obviously it's not as fun to like be behind a computer than in class, but the hardest part about being on Zoom is it's an adjustment that when I go to class at 10:20, I just have to walk down the stairs at like 10:19. I don't have to leave at 10:10 to go walk, or I don't have to
Yeah.
go to work. I don't have to like, so it's like I have more time because I'm not doing like so many other things that you usually do with your time. So I would say like that's definitely an adjustment for a lot of students here.
Yeah, definitely. What is freshman orientation like? Perfect, Sydney, you can take
Oh my
that.
gosh, I was an orientation leader. Last summer, it was the best experience being an orientation leader. Freshman orientation is actually, I'd say, very unique from other schools' orientations. I'm not sure if our format is going to continue, but as far as I know, it's split up into 7 different sessions. And then the group you're in is based on the residence hall you live in. So if you're in SWIG, you're going to be with all SWIG students, Dunn students, etc. And so basically you register for classes, you go to breakout sessions, you talk to each other, you get to know each other very well. And people that I had my orientation with, summer 2018, I'm still really good friends with to this day. Really deeply through the 2 days of orientation. That it happens this year because it's a really fond memory for me still at Santa Clara.
Yeah. I'd say your first year, you usually take around 4 classes, which is 16. You can add like a 2-unit class or even overload. But as you get older, it's more common to overload. Sasha and I are currently taking 25 units, which is 5 classes. But it's up to you and your schedule, major, minors, all that. How does the study abroad program work? Sasha, you want to take that?
Sure. So we're a little bit different in the sense that you have to actually apply to study abroad. So a lot of schools, if you want to go abroad, you go abroad, go for it. We'll be here when you come back. For us, it's a little bit more competitive. One, because Santa Clara only has a certain amount of spots they can give. And 2, they want to make sure that like you're not going to come back and you're going to need an entire 5th year because you wanted to go travel Europe for a few months sort of thing. So the process is that you start with an application just within Santa Clara. You highlight where you want to go, what your major is. If you go and you take X, Y, and Z classes, what's left for you when you come back and when will you graduate? So you have to timeline everything out, which is kind of nice because as a sophomore, you kind of have to figure out, okay, I'm a sophomore now, this is what I want to do. And you can follow it when you get back or you don't have to. But they basically want to make sure that everything's in line. And then let's say you do that, you select your program, and also what you have to declare your major by then if you want to study abroad, because your programs that are available to you are dependent on what you're studying. And then let's say, for example, you get accepted by Santa Clara, you then apply to the school. But once you get through Santa Clara's process, you're essentially in, because a lot of these schools will take you. For them, it's extra money coming from an international source, so that it's like easy to get into that school. There might be like a few here and there that might be competitive, but they'll highlight that if that's the case. And then once you get accepted, then you can kind of just go through and figure out, and like you'll meet people going in the same program, figure out like, you know, the logistics, where you're going to live, what you're going to study. This all is related to studying abroad in the fall of your junior year, which is pretty common. I would say the majority of students who go abroad do it in the fall. That being said, if you're in a sport but you can't go in the fall, you can also go either during the summer and either do an immersion program. I had a friend who went to Bolivia and did some nonprofit work. And there's also a multitude of programs you can do work internationally. It does not have to be studying abroad. You can still get abroad and do other things. And it could be at a different quarter. You can also study abroad in the winter. So it really just depends, but the most traditional route is the application process.
Yeah. Thank you. What are your relationships with teachers like? Are they accommodating for stress, other work, etc.? Do you open and available to meet? So I'd say that during their office hours, they usually accommodate a time for you to meet outside of that time. I've never had a problem where I can't meet with my professor. Needs to meet with teachers during office hours because I just work better that way. Need to go slowly, step by step sometimes. But I'd say every professor, at least for me, has been very passionate and always wanting me to learn rather than get the grade I want. That was kind of hard at first to accept that, like, I can't just work hard for a grade. I have to work hard and understand the material, which is really nice. What about you, Sydney and Sasha? What do you think about that?
Sydney,
I
go
think,
first.
thank you. I think the small class sizes makes it really easy to meet with your professors. Them knowing you personally, and then you being able to make time to meet with them outside of class. And so, like Chantel said, I've never had a problem with professors or having to schedule special for myself.
Yeah, I would say both. What you guys said is honestly what I would say too. The only thing I would mention is like, again, just there are going to be some professors that are awesome and you're going to love, and there's also going to be some professors that you quite frankly never want to see again. So I think, and that's kind of also because in the quarter system, you're taking 3 sets of classes. So you could essentially going through like 12 different professors a year. So like you are experiencing a lot of professors, and you have a way of studying and they have a way of teaching. So sometimes it doesn't always align, and then sometimes it works great. So I think just kind of keeping an open mind, and if you don't like your professor, finding other resources that can kind of make.
We have a transfer question, but we just answered something like that, so I'll skip that one. Next one is, what are some of the most fun / cool clubs on campus? I think we can all answer because we're all involved in different things. Personally, for me, I love my Internship Club. That's kind of where I like thrived at SCU. I joined a couple dance groups, and I've never been a part of anything like that before. I went to a predominantly white high school too, so there weren't clubs like this at my high school. So when I came here, I was like, wow, there are so many culture clubs. Like, I really want to get involved. And that's something, like, now I'm the culture show director for Internship's culture show. Unfortunately, again, don't know what that's going to look like this year, but it would have been cool. It's okay. Sasha and Sydney, what do you think?
If I had to pick one of my other ones that maybe I haven't talked about, obviously we talked about Into the Wild, but one that was helpful for me was Women in Business. I would say, like, as a junior and a senior, less active in the club. As a sophomore, it was super helpful just because as an accounting major, that's kind of like the peak of recruitment. And so it was nice to have a place outside of our career center to help me with resumes, to figure out like how to present yourself, not only as a business student who's interested in accounting, but also as a woman who's interested in accounting. So for me, I really enjoyed being a part of that club as a sophomore. And I mean, I still get the emails and stuff, but for me, that was like the most crucial point.
Yeah, I'm also biased like Chantel. I'm in a culture club, our school's Black Student Union, and that's been the most influential club I've had here. I feel like being at a predominantly white institution, it's really important to find communities that are similar to you. And so the Black Student Union has offered me a community where we understand each other,
How did you select which RLC you wanted to join? To accept Santa Clara's offer, you have to decide if you want a roommate and submit the RLCs you want to be in, or rank the RLCs you want to be in by May 1st. So basically what you do is you go online, you look at all the RLCs offered, and you kind of, I would say how I figured out what I wanted was I talked to other people who went to Santa Clara and figured out what the vibe was. I'd say like the double rooms are, the double room RLCs are generally more social, I'd say. Just because you have to go outside and use the bathroom somehow, that just makes it more social, like walking past everyone's room, everyone's doors open, people are talking more. The suite style, because there's a bathroom inside your suite and you have other suite mates, I'd say you kind of not stick with your suite, but it's generally a more quiet RLC vibe. Yeah, that's how I select. I lived in Dunn my freshman year and it was the best thing ever. It was a good mix of like social and also like having downtime during the weekdays. Sasha, I know you lived in Swig. Sydney, where did you live?
I also lived in Dunn, and
Oh.
I really wanted to live in Swig. And then I toured Swig and I said, I'm not so sure. So I think it's really important, even if you can't do an in-person tour, do a virtual tour to see, talk to students. I also talked to Santa Clara students who lived in Swig, and they had pros and cons for it. Once I toured Dunn, I knew that was it for me. Also, the theme is social justice. Each residence hall has its own theme. And so for me, social justice is something that's really important to me. And so Dunn just really aligned with my vibe and the kind of things I was interested in. So yeah, but it was great.
Sasha, do you want to talk about the infamous swig?
Yes. Okay. So a little bit more of like the cultural insight. I think they both kind of laid out the process perfectly, but Swig has this reputation for being very loud, very noisy. And I think the reason
It's
it
10
kind of
stories, by the way. It's
yeah,
like
so it's
long.
10, there's a ton of, and like they're like Graham also has just as many students, but the reason that Swig gets a little louder and a little rowdier is because it has the highest concentration of first years. And so a lot of the other residence halls also have as many students, which is like close to about 400, but it's spread out within, you know, first year, second years, third years, and such. And so I think, and also it's the oldest building. So I definitely can see where Sydney was like, she took a tour and then compared it to Dunn, because Dunn is this modern, super nice, and Swig is the oldest building we have you could live in here. And so it definitely depends like what you're looking for. I personally had no problem. You have a sink and like a vanity in your room, so you don't even have to leave to brush your teeth.
It's really nice.
I loved the communal style because you get to meet people. I'm personally very extroverted, so that communal style with the standard double was perfect. If you like more privacy, like a little bit more quiet time, I would definitely look into more of the mini suites or suite styles that are listed online as well.
Sydney, what are the social justice related opportunities like at Santa Clara?
There's a lot of social justice opportunities. One of the main ones that everyone has to take part in is the Experiential Learning in Social Justice, or ELSJ, class at Santa Clara, which is where you literally go out into the community. I had a friend whose ELSJ theme was going out and working with kids and teaching kids how to play music in the community. And so she was really enriched by that. And I think that having a class that kind of not forces you, but really encourages you to get out into the community helps you have a broader perspective. And as well, there are a lot of different clubs you can get involved in if you are interested in that.
Are there a lot of internship opportunities while as a student? Yes, you can get an internship whenever you would like. We have a database called Handshake where you can look through a ton of options that recruiters or anyone post on that database. And you can find an internship either in your area, in the Santa Clara area. It's cool because you can put the location wherever you want. My sophomore year, I really wanted an internship in Singapore. So I put Singapore and I got an internship in Singapore. So it's super cool that you can do that. Also around like your sophomore year, whatever your major is, the recruiters will contact you or your major in general and let you know when the recruiting season will start. So for accounting majors, it happened fall quarter of our sophomore year, which was kind of insane because it was for our junior year internship. But it was really helpful for that to happen. Sydney, do you want to talk about communication slash public political science internship? Sorry.
Yeah, well, actually, the internship that I had this past summer, I didn't get through Santa Clara because of the pandemic. I couldn't really coordinate how I wanted to. But I have utilized Handshake this year. I've been applying to more internships. And the Career Center, I'd say, is a really good resource, which I also utilized last year. They help kind of get you just on your feet, on track, so you don't feel so alone, just kind of searching through the web. You can get an advisor, talk to someone. So I recommend those resources.
Yeah. So we have 2 minutes left. I'm trying to find a question that we can all answer. Let's see. Is there a Trader Joe's near campus? Do people cook food or mostly just eat at the dining hall? Yes, there is a Trader Joe's near campus. It's about a 5-minute drive away, and that's my favorite place ever. It's like my form of self-care, like every week, I would say. And do people cook food or mostly just eat out at the dining hall? Sasha, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so part of like your housing deal when you come on campus is it's housing and food. So if you're on campus, you have a designated meal proportion. So most of the time, I would say on campus, people usually eat at Benson, which is like our cafeteria. Obviously here and there, go off campus for a little treat yourself. Sometimes we'd still go Trader Joe's just for snacks because it's Trader Joe's. On campus, I would say Trader Joe's probably takes most of our money.
Yeah.
A lot of us always go to Trader Joe's for stuff. It's cheap, it's close by, it's convenient. There's also a Safeway that's walkable if you're off campus or even on. So if you ever need some stuff, you can go there. Personally, I think it's a little bit more expensive than Trader Joe's, but you have options if you want. So if you're off campus, a lot of people usually start cooking or eating out, but I wouldn't say they really go off back on campus.
Yeah. Well, it is 11:45 now. So my clock is fast. Just kidding. We have 2 more minutes.
I was so confused.
Sorry,
like,
my clock right next to me is 11:45. Let's see. Did any of you guys ever change your majors or schools?
Yes.
Sasha, yes.
Yes, I can
Sorry,
actually
Sydney.
speak to this. I've changed both. I came in as a poli-sci major. So there was a question earlier that someone's like, what would you have wished you have known coming in Santa Clara? That would probably be my answer, just because the transfer process, depending on where you're trying to go, can be a little intense. So if you have any inkling of doing engineering or business, I would say apply to those first, because arts and science will take you anytime. If you're trying to leave arts and sciences like I did into the business school or engineering, it's competitive. With the business school, for sure, it's just depend on how many people leave. There's no designated transfer spots. So if you have 100 people leaving, you have 100 spots. If you have 2 people leaving, you have 2 spots. And they don't tell you what it's like every year. So you're pretty much going into it blind. And so if you are planning on doing that, work on your GPA is really all I can say. But obviously, if I didn't have to go through that stressful process, that would have been wonderful. So retrospectively, I should just apply business. Thinking about myself as a poli-sci major is crazy. But if you're transferring within the school, there's no problem. You're not going to like lose your spot. So any school, that is.
Another question. Why does Into the Wild restrict participation? They don't restrict participation. They just, because they have a certain number of leaders, like they have usually 3 or 4 leaders lead a trip. I think each leader can only look out for like 3 or 4 heads. Therefore, it becomes like a smaller group. But every week they offer new trips. So that's how you're able to join. How are the student relationships with professors? Kind of answered that one. Yeah, I think we've pretty much answered all these questions. Now it's officially 11:45. So I just want to thank you guys so much for asking questions and joining us today. If you have any further questions, I'm going to type in my email in the chat. And if you guys want to as well, you guys can feel free to email us with any questions you have, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.